Do not trust any statistics or any construct you do not know the direct definition. Imagine this. You have the best salesperson. He has the fewest calls and he's rarely in the office at his desk. But he has the highest sales volume in his whole company. What I described here is not an edge case. It's something very common what you will find in most companies in the world. The problem here is not a performance problem. It's a measurement problem. In this video, I will show you what a construct is, why you can never measure it directly, and how to make sure that the survey actually measures what you claim it does. Watch till the end and I will give you a 5-step checklist for building a survey construct that actually measures what it claims. Most researchers do not even learn at any university. Chapter 1. Performance is not a number. So let's go back to our example. The manager measures performance through 3 main indicators: calls per day, overtime hours, and office attendance. If you look at performance, it's not something you can objectively measure with just 3 indicators. Performance in itself is a construct, something real and important, and we know that it exists, but we cannot see it. It's not directly observable. You cannot point at one number and say, hey, this is performance. That's impossible. Every number you have can be an indicator for performance. The problem here is that indicators can never be the construct itself or substitute for it. They're just a window where we can guess what performance might be. The example we have here, attendance, overtime, calls per day, these can be part of performance, but in actuality, I would describe these 3 more as presence and not performance in its entirety. Everything you want to measure is more or less a construct. User satisfaction, technology, acceptance, AI capabilities, quality, trust, motivation. Nothing of these can directly be observed. What you can observe are responses, which you can hope that they are measuring the thing you want to measure. So, for example, likes on this video can be a measurement for quality, but maybe not. And here's where most students go wrong. They treat their own questions as if it were the construct itself. For example, I have 5 items for satisfaction, so I am measuring satisfaction. No, it's sad to say, but no, you're not measuring satisfaction. You're measuring responses to 5 questions on which you can guess satisfaction. Whether you really measure satisfaction is a very different question right here. And the sad part here, most people do not bother checking this connection. Let's say the manager tries to do better. He defines performance not only by the presence indicator, but he also goes a little bit further and says sales volume, customer satisfaction, error rate, client retention, team dynamics, 5 more indicators than before. Still not perfect, but closer to the actual construct. Because performance is a multi-dimensional construct where if you ask 10 people, you will get 10 different definitions of what performance actually is. So not one single indicator can measure such a construct. For example, if you're measuring motivation with one question, how motivated are you on a scale from 1 to 5? You're not measuring motivation. You're measuring the interpretation a person has on motivation in that exact moment they are seeing this question. So in short, good measurements means covering different facets of the construct. In research terms, this process is called operationalization, and this matters more the analysis itself. The manager writes his annual report on his employees. He has employees who does like 12 calls a day and has an attendance rate of 97%. And then he has employee B, this is the employee we've talked before, the one with the best sales numbers. He only takes 4 calls a day and has an attendance rate of only 71%. So the manager thinks, my best employee can achieve this result just by having an attendance rate by 71%. So if I can get him to be 20% more present, then his results should be 20% better. So his sales would go up 20% as well. This is the feedback he will give his employee. What he doesn't know, employee B is not less hardworking just because he's not in the office. He takes clients to lunch. He goes to trade fairs. He spends time with the customer service and the developers to really get a very good understanding of the product that he's selling. So he knows the product better than anyone else in the whole company, or at least in his sales team. So in fact, his low attendance rate isn't despite his results, it's part of the result. So if the manager uses the wrong metric to assess his employees, he will plan interventions that will make his best employees worse. The numbers are real, but the measurement, the logic is broken. Something similar will happen if you use weak definitions in your surveys. For example, if you ask, would you use the system? And 76% say yes. Then you could write, acceptance is very high. 76% said yes. But only because they say they would use it doesn't mean they will actually use it. Imagine this. Instead of asking, would you use it? You ask, do you use it? Or are you planning to use it starting tomorrow? Or you could also ask, would you prefer to use it over your current system, even if the transition takes 3 months? You see, all these questions sound very similar, but in its core, they are asking very different aspects of the same construct, user acceptance. The only difference here is that if you only ask whether people would use something, it's very easy to agree with it. But if you make it more pricey, if you would lose the current system you are using, that's something very different. It's higher cost. And maybe they come to a different conclusion. Really try to think about what you really want to know from your sample, and do not make the mistake on building a truth upon just 1 or 2 indicators of something you try to measure. If you have a survey and already have data at hand, which method you can use to analyze the data, I have a little Excel tool constructed for you. Check down below, which will help you to choose the methods and hopefully will help you the analysis right. So, how does a good operationalization looks like? Step 1. Define the construct before you have a single item or a single question. So do not write only satisfaction is what I want to know. Be more specific. For example, satisfaction is the cognitive and the affective evaluation of a user regarding the match between expectation and experience of the system. So, this sounds very heavy, but it forces you to decide what you actually want to measure. Affection, cognition, expectation, experience. So you have a lot of specific things you want to bring into your measurement. And this brings us to step 2. Separate the dimensions. Which dimensions do I need to really get a good measurement? For example, satisfaction typically has 2 dimensions, cognitive evaluation and emotional response. You can define it a little bit further, you can define it a little bit restrained, so you have some freedom how your definitions work. And what I recommend you in here is research good definitions for your constructs. And remember, every dimension of your construct needs its own indicators. Not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but that you need some indicators for every dimension you want to measure, which are part of a bigger construct. Step 3, try to use validated scales for your measurement. And if you do not use them, justify why. For most standard constructs like performance, satisfaction, there are people out there who already constructed measurement instruments or survey questions to measure these constructs in a good way and also have some data to prove that they have constructed a good survey for this. So try to find something which will nail the thing you want to measure. So, to wrap it all up, every time you are confronted with a construct you want to measure in some way, go into the questionnaire or into the survey and look at every question and ask yourself, does this item actually measure the construct I claim to measure? Or does it measure something else? Alright, we are at the end of the video, so as I promised, 5-step checklist whether you have a good construct or not. First, can I define my construct in one precise sentence, which does not contain the construct itself? Step 2, how many dimensions does my construct have? How are the indicators for this defined? Does this match with the thing I really want to measure? Step 3, does validated method already exist? Sometimes you won't find the exact thing you are looking for, but try to find something. 4, check every item of a survey whether they measure the construct you want to measure. And last but not least, 5, would my supervisor be able to which item belongs to which construct or to which indicator? So if your survey has like 30 questions, that's fine. If it only has 10 or 20, that can also be fine. It depends what you're trying to measure. So all in all, if you have a measurement which measures the wrong thing very precisely, that's not research, that's just noise with a table attached to it. Leave a comment and a like, and goodbye.